Do you fear what happened to Rolex could potentially happen to some lines? And in particular, I would have to say Trinidad and Cohiba.
In what sense?
In the sense that, you know, it's supposed to be affordable. It's supposed to be available. But the fact that the price is just absurdly high, or the fact that you can't necessarily particularly get some lines somewhere, but you have to travel across the globe to get it somewhere else, and again pay a fortune for it. Do you think that people are going to be drawn away from lines like Cohiba and Trinidad? Because, again, Fandadoris, one of the most beautiful cigars I've ever smoked in my life. I was lucky enough to get into the cigar world just before the drought came around.
Yes.
And I was lucky enough to purchase 2 boxes of Fondadoras, Trinidad Fondadoras. And at the time, when I was telling people what I paid for the box of cigar, everybody thought I was crazy.
What did you pay?
A lot, a lot.
Shh, don't say that too loud.
Yeah.
Some of my customers like.
Yes, I know. I know. It's such a hard line. And especially recently, they relaunched the Fondadoras again, which is so joyful for someone like me. But I know for a fact I cannot get that anymore because the prices are so absurdly high that even if I want to spend that, I can't justify spending $150 for one stick. Do you fear what happened to Rolex is happening to the Cuban cigars? Do you think that this is sort of pushing the market away from those lines and introducing new lines will be a little bit beneficial for Habanos?
That's a very good question as well.
I do have to tell you, as an American, I get most of my stuff sent to me by, different companies, whether it's Switzerland, whether it's different companies. It's just that it's very frustrating, and I cannot genuinely justify spending more than what I paid for 4 years ago, 5 years ago for a Fondadoras compared to what it is today.
Well, you are in a very large majority, all of us were shocked by the price changes that happened overnight, really, 2 years ago with those brands.
Yes.
And the overall level of inflation that we've experienced, not just in cigars, in general, just before and then in particular after COVID, there was this terrible experience. I mean, I'll give you a good example. In London, for £50, as a single person, you could eat a really good meal and have a glass of wine. Today, it's £100. The same meal, the same glass of wine in 4 years, 3 or 4 years. That's doubled, okay. It's a discretionary item. You don't have to spend it on that. The same way a cigar is.
Yeah, I think the same things happen with a bunch of stuff. I mean, like Bordeaux wines was bought up by a lot of buyers back in the day, shot the prices up. Rolexes are coming down a bit now.
Nowadays.
But yeah, the same thing happened. But the thing with the cigar thing, I think it was a bunch of different factors. So one, it was obviously the whole COVID situation. We're still feeling the effects of that slightly. It's much better now. But one was not that. Two was also Cuba had a big flood at one point. I think a lot of curing barns were destroyed. And then also the buyout of Habanos. There's all these different factors that come into play all at the same time. So that's what brought on that shortage, and I'm not sure like what was going on at that point, because obviously we don't know much here. We can't see what's going on in Cuba and how things are running. So we just get told what we're told by Hunters and Francout, they're the importers here. But we were getting cigars very, very slowly. But when something's limited, the price goes up. It's like anything, like a supreme drop or something like that. People want to pay for what they can't have. And the price went to a sky high that most I've ever seen it. It's kind of stayed there, and it hasn't really come down. Even with the cigars coming back, it stayed at a price point, because I think now people know that that's what they can charge. It's kind of like not I mean,
Do you think that's fair?
no, I think, but as a business, I think it's the smart thing to do. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to make a good profit. But also, if you look at we have to look at other cigar stores. As we're friends with Davidoff, we're friends with all the cigar stores on this road. So we try and price everything, you know, appropriate to where we are. You got to remember we're in Mayfair here, so like the pricing is a certain high price point, but we don't like to undercut anybody. We don't like to overshoot prices and be ridiculous. We like to try and keep it fair. But also, as I was saying, the prices did stay where they were, but also the availability isn't still at a point where we can just get what we want all the time. We have to be very, very careful. We have to keep stock back, because like 1 week I might be able to get a box of Fundadores, but then I won't be able to get it for another 6 months. And that's been the case recently. Like last box of Fundadores I had was probably about 4 or 5 months ago. And I got one, and then I got one the week afterwards, and that was it. So even though they are more expensive, like the cigars are coming back and we could bring the price down, but the availability, for the sought after cigars, I think there's a category, we have a category of like an A tier of what's very sought after, like Cohiba Esplendidos, Vejique 56, Fundadores, like all these like harder to get cigars, they're in a different category. So we try and keep everything fairly priced on the main lines, but that kind of stuff, we don't bring the price down because the availability is still very, very hard to get. So that's why but also you want to keep everything at a fair price, but it's hard now with all the legislation, and now we have track and trace and all these other things coming in.
Let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned Fundadores next to Vejique. Now, Vejique uses the medio tiempo, which is very hard to get on a plant, but Fundadores doesn't use that.
No, it's,
Esplendidos doesn't use that. So please justify the pricing.
I think what Cuba has created, intentionally or unintentionally, is a more diversified portfolio by price. So yes, you're right. The Cohibas and the Trinidads are really there for the clients who either have really unlimited means or have such a desire to smoke that cigar that they are willing to sacrifice other things in a way they didn't have to before.
So, I mean, it's purely the availability of the cigars. I mean, there's less yield of these cigars. Like another one is 8 Chapman Sir Winston, which is a classic Churchill size, but they don't make as many of them. They just don't make as many of them as Romeo and Julieta do. That's why they put them in a slightly nicer box. They put them in a varnished box with a clasp, and it's very, very beautifully presented. Yeah. But it's the same size cigar. It doesn't have any special tobacco in it, but and also the reason Fundadores is very, very highly prized is because it's a hard Vitola to roll. Yeah. It's like a Cohiba Lanceros. Like this Vitola, I mean, Fundadores is 2 ring gauges bigger than a Lancero. Lancero is 7.5 by 38, and a Fundadores is a Leguito Especial, so it's 7.5 by 40. So it's a slightly wider gauge. It's the only cigar that Cuba make in that size. So it's only a very select few number of people that roll that cigar. So that's why the availability is so much less, because it takes a very skilled roller to roll that Vitola. And there's not many of them that can do it. So if you look at where Trinidad are rolled in the factory, you got so many more people rolling, like Topaz, Esmeralda, than you do Fundadores. So it's just the availability. And same thing, I don't know, I can't give you the answer about Cohiba Esplendidos because I'm not sure why, but it's just, I think that again comes down to Cohiba being such, a big brand that people will always buy that Churchill over every other Churchill, not because it's, a better cigar or they don't make as many. It's just because it's Cohiba.
It's the branding.
People want that brand. So they can't keep enough of that in stock. So it goes and goes and goes. And because of that, the price goes up and the availability goes down.
So if you walked into my shop and you expressed exactly what you just said to me now, and you wanted to smoke a Cuban, of course, that's the other thing. Good value exists outside of Cuba, plentiful supply. But even within the Cuban portfolio, there is still great value. And there's sub-brands, boutique brands, which, in my opinion, can deliver almost as wonderful a flavor and experience. That's where the cigar merchant comes in. So don't be disillusioned. Just because the Fundadores becomes inaccessible, it does not mean that you will not find another wonderful cigar. In fact, I guarantee you will. Eventually, hopefully, your means will rise faster than the price of the Honduras.
Yes, hopefully.
And then you'll be smoking them again.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, try everything. Try and be a bit blind to price, and go by what you taste and what you think about and how you experience it. And I've had so many great cigars today that really would be considered inexpensive,
Yeah.
relative to the rest of the portfolio, but are wonderful cigars, handmade, long filler, and really do the job well.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would add, a small thing, is at least with Cuban products, in general, you have a very important input in the quality of the cigar you smoke, and that is how you keep it and how long you age it. Most Cuban cigars will improve with time, certainly in the first 5 years. So try and address the cost issue by buying more affordable ones now, but put them away.
Put them away, yeah.
Let Mother Time help there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cohiba is the brand everyone wants to buy. I mean, I have a lot of Chinese clients at the moment. That's the only brand they want is Cohiba, and that's why the price of Cohiba is the way it is, especially for those more desirable cigars, like Esplendidos, like Lanceros, because they are the more desirable Vitolas, because they're harder to get, harder to roll, less yield, less of them made. That's what they want. The same with Behikes.